We've all heard the phrase financial independence, but what does that even really mean? Is it a specific number in your bank account? Does your net worth need to be a certain number and then all will feel right? All of your money problems will disappear? Because sometimes doesn't it actually feel a little bit more like a moving target, where as soon as you hit the target, the goalposts move again, just a little bit more. I'll work just a few more years. I'll feel a little bit more peace when I hit $1 million, $5 million, $20 million, $100 million. So in this video, we'll explore the different stages one passes through on their journey through financial independence. I'll actually give you a framework so you can help figure out where you currently stand and what it's going to take for you to get to the next level. I'll also share a prescription to help you deal with the head games that come with the challenges associated with each of these steps. Hi there, I'm Steve Willems. I'm a wealth advisor with the Willems Wealth Planning Group out here in BC. We started this channel to help you plan for your own retirement, helping you think about how to arrange your investments, your income streams, and ideally have you pay less tax along the way. Now, this concept of a spectrum of financial independence was pioneered by one of my favorite authors, Morgan Housel. He recognized that financial freedom isn't a binary state. It's actually a continuum or a spectrum with various levels, each offering different degrees of autonomy and control over one's life. You could picture it like a staircase rather than a sprint with a checkered flag at a finish line. So this is a super valuable framework as you're planning your own retirement. You see, just like one of those road signs telling you how far to the next town, this tool is going to give you qualitative markers to help you identify your current standing, and it's going to guide the steps needed for you to reach the next stage of financial independence. And frankly, what are some of the perks or benefits of being at that next stage? Now, I've simplified Morgan's list of 16 different steps down to 9 on the spectrum, so let's dive in. The first level would be complete dependence. And at this stage, you're essentially entirely dependent on others, family, friends, government assistance. You need it all for your financial support. Your ability to make independent choices, severely limited. You have little to no control over your living situation or financial future. I really hope you're not at this stage right now. Now, level 2, you're able to cover your basic needs. Here, your income is going to cover your basic living expenses, food, shelter, utilities, through employment or some type of small business. However, your situation is precarious still. There's little to no savings. There's little to no buffer for anything unexpected that might come along. Now, level 3 is what I would call self-funded essentials. At this point, you can self-fund your essential expenses like your housing, your transportation, your healthcare without relying on others. This level is going to have more stability. You're going to feel like you're on a firmer foundation, but you're going to still lack some flexibility. You don't have full control over your time. Unexpected costs or job loss can still derail your progress if you find yourself at this phase. Now, level 4 is the phase where you've got no bad debt and you've got enough savings. At this level, you've eliminated all of your consumer debt. So your credit cards, your car loans, and as a result, this is going to free up your cash flow for even more savings and investments. At this point, you're going to have more control over your finances, but you still might rely on active employment to fund your lifestyle. At this stage, your run-of-the-mill problems from life, they don't throw you off anymore. So basic car repairs, regular house upkeep, these kinds of hassles that the average person just has to deal with in a given year, they're not going to be putting you into dire straits at this stage. Now, level 5 is where we start to see the savings level increase. You've accumulated sufficient retirement savings to maintain your life's basic needs. Here, the bigger unforeseen problems are fine. Again, they don't throw you off. And even the occasional crisis doesn't massively disrupt your overall plan. You still need to work, however. You have a boss or you have customers if you own a business, but you can imagine a time where your current savings will open up a new path of independence for your family. At level 6, you're going to start to optimize to reduce hassle. At this point, you unlock the flexibility to use some of your money to reduce the hassle of unnecessary tasks in your life. So perhaps you're going to be picking a job that pays less, but makes you happier. You might have more control over your time at this level. If someone asks you to do something that you don't feel like you want to do, you're going to be in a position where you've got the financial freedom to say, no, not for me, not at this time. Now, you likely still work at this point, but you do have some passive assets that are generating income and growth for you, and you're starting to see that pile increase in their value. Level 7 picks up where we left off. We got increased passive assets. At this point, your passive income has grown to the point that it can actually support your basic needs. You probably don't need banks to make some of your bigger financial moves at this point. So upsizing or downsizing, buying a new vehicle. At this point, let's say you've got 20 times your annual net spending in liquid financial assets. So if your base spending was $50,000, you'd have $1 million set aside in a bucket there, generating some type of growth. Here, how much independence you will have largely is going to be determined by your spending. So if you spend less, you're going to have more independence. Now in level 8, we're talking about coverage that goes far beyond the basic needs. And by now, your assets and some reasonable best guess about the return generated on those assets will cover your core living expenses through the rest of your life. At this point, you can confidently pull the plug. You're no longer financially dependent on your bosses or your customers. You can deal with them if you want to, but you don't have to. You have enough to cover your core expenses and also a little bit extra. Now, what you define as extra might look different for you than for someone else. Different people are going to want different things out of this stage of financial independence. Mathematically, kind of back of the napkin here, you're going to be looking at about 30 times your net lifestyle burn rate in liquid financial assets, and that's going to have you at this 8th level. Now at the top, at level 9, you've got essentially an inability to mathematically outspend your wealth. At this point, your wealth is vast enough that you can't actually realistically outspend it through any reasonable means. You've got full and ultimate financial autonomy, and you can pursue any endeavor without worrying about the cost. You don't really care also what other people think of you. You don't rely on them for your financial well-being. Typically also at this point, philanthropy is really the only realistic way that your assets won't compound faster than they're being spent. Now, as you progress through these levels, the benefits compound. The lower levels offer stability, while you'll find the higher levels grant increasing freedom to make the choices without those financial constraints. The higher levels are also going to carry more flexibility about how you spend your time, since you're commonly essentially just swapping dollars for control back of your time. One of the helpful exercises here is to actually run a back-tested and robust financial plan to actually test where you're at on this spectrum. We run these kinds of tests or analyses every single week here with our team. So if you'd like us to help you pull one of those together, one of these kind of financial independence stress tests, I'll put a link in the description below for you to get started. One of the key questions that emerges after wading through this framework is this: what level represents enough for you? What do you want to aim for? At what level do you think you'll find contentment at? This answer is deeply personal and influenced by your values, your goals, and your philosophy about money. In his article, The Many Worlds of Enough, Lawrence Yeo emphasizes that enough means different things to different people. For some, it might be the ability to cover their most basic expenses without any worry. For others, enough might mean having the freedom to pursue every single passion project they could ever imagine. Mr. Yeo notes that it's often easier to find someone who's embraced this concept of enough at the extreme ends of the spectrum, either living a really minimalistic life or having achieved vast wealth. The challenge lies in the middle, where societal pressures and lifestyle creep can make it really difficult to recognize and appreciate when you've reached your own personal definition of enough. So as you progress along this spectrum of financial independence, it's crucial to pause and actually reflect on what truly matters to you. Is it the financial security and the peace of mind? Is it the ability to spend time with loved ones? Is it the freedom to explore kind of new adventures, or perhaps leaving a lasting legacy? What's your North Star? Once you've defined your enough mathematically and qualitatively, you can make intentional choices about your spending, your saving, and your lifestyle to make sure that all of these things are aligned to that vision. If your enough is actually at a lower level on this spectrum, you might actually choose to live more frugally and prioritize debt elimination. If your definition of enough is still ahead of you, it's higher, then you got to be focusing on building out those passive income streams and growing your investment assets to be able to get there. Now, to be clear, how you define enough will without question also evolve over time. It's going to change. Think about when you're in high school. You may have fantasized about being the manager of the golf course that you worked at instead of the ball boy that was caught running the ball picker where everyone was aiming and trying to hit you. Then you went to college and you aspired for something greater. You learned how to code and you started building a business, designing websites for other business owners. And you did that for a while. You did more schooling, and then you found yourself in a role helping people make critical decisions around some of the most sensitive areas of their life, their money. The thought of now going back and applying for that managerial role at the golf course would essentially be inconceivable to this person. And spoiler alert, this is my story. I was the ball boy. And without realizing exactly how it happens, we find ourselves in a completely different world, and we redefine enough in our own way based on who we've become. Now, somewhere on this spectrum, ambition can also morph into greed. Ambition is good. It gives us a sense of purpose. We want to become a more capable person. Ambition, it gives meaning to our days. The loss of ambition from one's work is often one of the common challenges that folks who transition into retirement actually struggle with. So ambition, good. But greed is different. And as you step up the spectrum of financial independence, this does become a risk. Ambition ambiguously turns into greed in kind of a blurry kind of way, not a line in the sand. When you lose your self-awareness, when you start pushing for things because you care more about what others think of you, when you stop doing things out of curiosity and more for the utility of it, you've stepped past ambition and into greed. And one of the perks of thinking through this financial independence and kind of enough exercise is the impact it can have on your family. When you've reached a stage where your financial needs are met and you've got the freedom to be able to exchange and kind of regain control over your time, your kids also really benefit. And I'm not talking about leaving large nest eggs, large, inheritances back for them. So why do I say the kids benefit? Well, you're giving your kids the freedom to go and figure themselves out without having to start at level 1. They can go figure out what kind of contribution they want to make on the world without starting all the way at that full dependence level. They can take calculated risks, knowing that there's a safety net below them. And beyond that, when you've thought through all of this stuff, they also see you model that firsthand. They'll see how you're exercising those values, that financial literacy, that self-awareness. They'll see it all being modeled. And more often than not, long past when they're out of the house, they'll accidentally start to mimic what they saw as a young adult to their benefit and probably for your joy. So that's all for now. The spectrum of financial independence I found to be a really powerful framework for just helping you think about different ways that you can think about financial freedom and the choices that come with each level. On that journey, figuring out what enough means is going to be a pretty important job. So just take time to pause, even if just for a moment, to realize how that's changed over the course of your lifetime and imagine how that might evolve into the future too. So I really hope that was helpful as you plan for your own retirement. And thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next video.